Hey friends, welcome back to another edition of College Sports Corner. We're doing our Week 8 review this week. A lot of people called it kind of a lame duck weekend. We have one of those every year. But actually, we have some pretty good games this weekend. Some pretty good contests. Some moments there that kind of surprised all of us, I think. Next week, this next Saturday is going to be even better. So really, I would say we haven't had a lame weekend like a lot of people say we were going to have one this weekend. I enjoyed it. I thought we had some great games, some good things happen, some cool things happen. Anyway, let's get down to some news and headlines. But first, we're going to start with the polls in case you didn't see them. Okay, AP poll. Georgia 1, Cincinnati 2, Alabama 3, Oklahoma 4, Ohio State 5, Michigan 6, Oregon 7, Michigan State 8, Iowa's 9, Ole Miss is 10, Notre Dame 11, Kentucky 12, Wake Forest 13, A&M 14, Oklahoma State 15, Baylor 16, Pitt 17, Auburn 18, SMU 19, Penn State 20, San Diego State 21, Iowa State 22, UTSA 23, Coastal Carolina 24, and BYU 25. That is your AP top 25. Your coaches poll: 1 Georgia, 2 Cincinnati, 3 Alabama, 4 Oklahoma, 5 Ohio State, 6 Michigan, 7 Michigan State, 8 Oregon, 9 Ole Miss, 10 is Iowa, 11 Notre Dame, 12 Kentucky, 13 Wake Forest, 14 Texas A&M, 15 Oklahoma State, 16 is SMU, 17 Penn State, 18 Baylor, 19 Pitt, 20 San Diego State, 21 Auburn, 22 UTSA, 23 is Iowa State, 24 Coastal Carolina, and 25 is NC State. That is your coaches poll for this week. That'll change here pretty soon. All right, news and headlines. Conference USA has lost half its teams this last week. Southern Miss is the latest to defect and go towards that big, I don't know what you would call it, alliance between the AAC joining that conference. It looks like there's something I saw today that they have to have 8 teams in there to qualify for a conference or something like that, and only have 5. So Conference USA wants to continue. They're going to have to dip into some independents and maybe somewhere else to try to get their 8 to qualify for a conference. At least I think that's what I read. Okay, Ivy League officials admit they made a mistake in officiating that cost Harvard the win over Princeton. So Ivy League officials, it's not just Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12 officials that suck. Ivy League is too. So heck, maybe even Pac-12 and them suck too. We just don't know it. So a lot of officiating mistakes made. This is kind of ongoing. This has been going on for a few years now, maybe even several years. The officiating is just getting worse and worse. I don't know what the solution is to it, but I wish they'd fix it because now it's costing somebody a game. Texas Tech fired their coach, Matt Wells. He was 13-17 in 2.5 years. I don't know what Tech is going to do. They have to look for somebody that can bring them back to where they were Mike Price and who was it, the longtime one, Spike Dykes, I think that was his name years ago. They need to find somebody that can bring them back to that kind of prominence. NC State linebacker Isaiah Moore and left guard Chandler Zavala, both out for the season. They're going to have surgery. Injuries weren't specified, though the linebacker Isaiah Moore, there's reports that in the game he was holding his knee. He left the game, the Miami game, came back in and left again. So speculation that it's his knee that's injured for him. Miami safety Bubba Boulder will miss the rest of the season with a shoulder injury. Another big topic is the Penn State-Illinois overtime jamboree, whatever you want to call it. I personally have felt that I've never really been a big fan of the overtime rules that they've had the last several years. I've always thought they should start them at the 50. And if somebody doesn't make yards, doesn't get very far, and they have to kick a long-ass field goal, make them kick a long-ass field goal. I mean, I know they're trying to get it down to where we don't have another Texas A&M, LSU thing. And then years ago, if you remember, Arkansas was involved in a couple of long games. I think one was against Ole Miss, the other one was against Tennessee. That may have happened in the same year, or maybe in different years, but They're trying to get this thing cut down. I'm gonna be honest with you. Um, my wife's car was at the shop Saturday, and they called and said it was fixed, ready to go. I said, okay, we'll go pick it up. Let me see who wins this game. And, I think it's about the fifth overtime. I said, man, the hell with this. Let's just go get your car. I mean, this is just dumb. So I admit it. I left the game, and I just came back from getting her car, and I said, okay, Illinois won. Good for them. But that was just kind of ridiculous, really. And then they have to walk and change ends of the field, and I don't know who thought of this, but it didn't work out very well. Some of you may have liked it. I know I've read online and seen some people on social media said, oh, I loved it. It was great. But, some people like it, some people don't, just like everything in the world. But hopefully they'll change that or something. All right, one piece of basketball news. Baylor freshman guard Langston Love will miss the season. He tore his ACL in scrimmage. Good luck to you, man. Hope you get well soon. Hope you get to come back next year in full force and all that. Okay, let's start here. Thursday, SMU 55, Tulane 26. SMU quarterback Tanner Mordese was 30 for 42, 427 yards, 3 touchdowns. He rushed for 34 yards and had another touchdown. Running back Trey Siggers rushed for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. They had 612 total yards in that game. Tulane quarterback Michael Pratt was 11 for 22, 234 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wide receiver Shee Wyatt had 2 touchdown catches. They have 428 total yards. This game wasn't all that close. SMU was up 31-7 at the half. SMU is still undefeated. They keep rolling over people. Florida Atlantic 38, Charlotte 9. Florida Atlantic quarterback Narasi Perry was 9 for 11, 285 yards and 3 touchdowns. Offense accounted for 2 rushing touchdowns and 3 reception touchdowns for Florida Atlantic. Charlotte quarterback Chris Reynolds was 22 for 31, 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He was sacked twice in this game. 49ers were winning 9-7 at the half, and then Florida Atlantic scored 31 unanswered in the second half. Owls had 427 total yards. Charlotte had 351 total yards. San Jose State 27, UNLV 20. San Jose State quarterback Nick Nash threw for 213 yards, no touchdowns, but he did rush for 121 yards and a touchdown. Running back Tyler Nevins rushed for 32 yards and 2 touchdowns. UNLV quarterback Cameron Fuel was 20 for 28, 240 yards, 1 touchdown. He threw 2 interceptions. Running back Charles Williams rushed for 94 yards and a touchdown. San Jose State had 429 total yards, and the Rebels had 235 total yards in that game. Friday, Middle Tennessee 44, UConn 13. This was actually a 10-point game at the half, and then Middle Tennessee exploded. Quarterback Chose Cunningham for Middle Tennessee was 25 for 36, 297 yards, 4 touchdowns. Wide receiver Jimmy Mitchell had 4 catches for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. UConn quarterback Steve Krajewski, 21 for 37, 237 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Blue Raiders had 473 total yards, and Huskies had 304 total yards. Central Florida 24, Memphis 7. Nice quarterback. Both of them played. Keene and Gateworth. They both threw touchdown passes. Wide receiver Ryan O'Keefe rushed for a touchdown and caught a touchdown pass. Memphis quarterback Peter Parrish was 31 for 48, 215 yards, 0 touchdowns. He threw 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 6 times. These total yards here. Central Florida 295 and Memphis 292. not really too good for either team there. Utah State 26, Colorado 24. It was 0-0 in the first quarter, which I wouldn't expect that from Utah State, but it was. Ended up being 20-14 at halftime. Utah State quarterback Logan Bonner was 17 for 31, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 8 times in this game. Derek Wright had 2 touchdown catches, and kicker Connor Coles kicked 6 points for Utah State. Colorado State quarterback Todd Centello, 18 for 29, 282 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Running back David Bailey had 30 rushes for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. Aggies have 344 total yards, and Colorado State had 472. Washington 21, Arizona 16. Arizona was up 13-0 at the half. It looked like they were going to be able to finally get out of that no-win column, but didn't work out for them. Husky quarterback Dylan Morris, 13 for 21, 217 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times in this game. Wide receiver Terrell Bynum, 5 catches for 143 yards and 1 touchdown. Arizona's quarterback passing game, 62 total yards in the passing game for Arizona. Top rusher Steve Roker, 87 yards. Top receiver Barry Hill had 20 yards. Huskies had 305 total yards, and the Wildcats had 280 total yards. I don't know if Arizona's going to win a game this year. They're looking really bad, but you never know. It might happen. All right, Saturday, Florida State 59, UMass 3. UMass scored their 3 points in the first quarter, and that was it. They were done for the rest of the game. It was all Florida State. Both quarterbacks played for Florida State. Jordan Travis threw for 123 yards, no touchdowns, but he did rush for a touchdown. Chuba Purdy threw 2 TD passes. Running back Jashawn Corbin, 127 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. Jarvis Brownlee, 70-yard pick 6 for Florida State. Florida State had 586 total yards. UMass had 241 total yards. This was a weird game, crazy game. Oklahoma 35, Kansas 23. I don't know if any of you saw it. KU was up 10-0 at the half. And OU, they didn't score any points until the third quarter. And this is kind of a crazy game because when Kansas was winning, evidently the administration put out to all the students, I guess by text message or email or something, come to the game, it's free. Gates are open, come in. And I don't know if that was a jinx or not, because when all the students came in for free, and then they lost the game. So I'm just kidding. I'm not blaming you Kansas fans, but it's a weird situation there. Oklahoma quarterback Caleb Williams, 15 for 20, 178 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He also rushed for 70 yards and a touchdown. Kennedy Brooks rushed for 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kansas quarterback Jason Bean, 17 for 23, 246 yards and 1 touchdown. Devin Neal rushed for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sooners had 398 total yards. KU had 412 total yards. Michigan 33, Northwestern 7. This game was 10-7 at the half. Northwestern was hanging in there for the first half. Michigan TDs were all rushing. Blake Lovin rushed for 119 yards and 2 touchdowns. Haskins had 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kicker Jake Moody kicked 5 points. Wildcats had decent numbers. Wolverines defense just chopped them all up and just ended all their drives. They moved the ball pretty good, but when it got down to the nitty-gritty, Michigan just said, nope, that's enough. Ryan Helinski threw for 114. Evan Hull rushed for 81 yards and a touchdown. Michigan ended up with 457 total yards, and Northwestern 233 total yards. All right, game to talk about a little bit. Illinois 20, Penn State 18, 9 overtimes. That was just crazy. Illinois had 38 passing yards in this game. That was it, 38. Chase Brown rushed for 233 yards and a touchdown. Penn State quarterback Sean Clifford was 19 of 34, 165 yards and 1 touchdown. Sacked 4 times in this game. Illinois ended up with 395 total yards. Penn State ended up with 437 total yards. Eastern Michigan 55, Bowling Green 24. Quarterback Ben Bryant for Eastern Michigan was 20 for 26, 286 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he rushed for a touchdown. 4 different receivers, Oaks, Drummond, Cannon, and Odukoya, each had touchdown catches for Eastern Michigan. Bowling Green quarterback Matt McDonald was 20 for 35, 223 yards, no touchdowns. Terrion Stewart and Nick Musley each had a rushing touchdown. Eagles had 455 total yards, and the Falcons had 374 total yards. Northern Illinois 39, Central Michigan 38, 1-point game there. Northern Illinois quarterback Rocky Lombardi was 16 for 26, 320 yards, and three touchdowns. Joy Dunker rushed for 183 yards and a touchdown. Wide receiver Trayvon Randolph had 160 yards on 6 catches and 2 touchdowns. Central Michigan quarterback Daniel Richardson was 23 for 36, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. Running back Lou Nichols rushed for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. Northern Illinois ended up with 589 total yards, and Central Michigan ended up with 500 total yards. Arkansas 45, Arkansas Pine Bluff 3. Razorback quarterback KJ Jefferson was 10 for 17, 194 yards, 4 touchdowns. Traylon Burks rushed for a touchdown and caught a touchdown. Caught two touchdown passes. Razorbacks ended up with 504 total yards, and the Golden Lions ended up with 223 total yards. This was a pretty good game here. I watched this one. Kansas State 25, Texas Tech 24. Kansas State quarterback Skylar Thompson was 24 for 30, 296 yards, 1 touchdown. Running back Deuce Vaughn rushed for 2 touchdowns, and he caught a touchdown pass. Texas Tech quarterback Henry Colombo, 10 for 17, 148 yards, no touchdowns. Cedric Thompson rushed for 2 touchdowns. Kicker Jonathan Gorboy kicked 6 points. K-State ended up with 377 total yards, and Texas Tech 318. This game, Texas Tech kind of dominated in the first half, and even a little bit into the third quarter. And then the Kansas State finally just turned it on and ended up coming back and winning that game. Wake Forest 70, Army 56. Wake Forest quarterback Sam Hartman, 23 for 29, 458 yards and 5 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown. Wide receiver Jaquari Robertson, 8 catches, 157 yards, 3 touchdowns. Running back Perry, 146 receiving yards and a touchdown. Travian Reed had an 83-yard pick 6. Quarterback Jonathan Lewis for Army was 9 for 11, 140 yards, 3 touchdowns. Tyhar Taylor rushed for 104 yards and 1 touchdown. And Isaiah Alston caught 2 touchdown passes. I really expected Army to put up more of a fight than they did. Wake Forest just kind of walked all over them. And Army's a decent team too, so maybe that says a lot about the Wake Forest. They're undefeated now, 7-0, I think it is. Like I said, Army's a good team. If they're beating them, Wake Forest, they might be making a run for that ACC title game. 3-point game at halftime. Cincinnati 27, Navy 20. And here, this is just the opposite. Navy's not that good this year. I figured Cincinnati would be all over them. I don't know. Cincinnati quarterback Desmond Ridder, 18 for 30, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Josh Weil had 4 catches for 60 yards and 2 touchdowns. Quarterback Tay Lavade from Navy, 11 for 15, 116 yards, 0 touchdowns, but he did rush for 2 touchdowns. Bearcats ended up with 271 total yards. Midshipmen ended up with 308 total yards. Syracuse 41, Virginia 36. Hokies were winning this game by 6 at halftime. Syracuse quarterback Garrett Schroeder, 16 for 34, 236 yards, 2 touchdowns. He rushed for 174 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. Sean Tucker rushed for 112 yards and a touchdown. Wide receivers Jackson and Alfred each had a touchdown catch. Virginia Tech quarterback Braxton Burmeister, 10 for 20, 177 yards, 1 touchdown. He was sacked 3 times in this game. Malik Thomas rushed for 101 yards and 3 touchdowns. Kicker John Parker Romo had 10 points in this game, kicked 10 points for them. Orangemen, 550 total yards. Hokies, 437 total yards. Kent State, 34, Ohio, 27. Kent State quarterback Dustin Crum was 26 for 31, 257 yards, 1 touchdown. He also rushed for a touchdown. Dante Campos had 9 catches for 103 yards and a touchdown. And kicker Andrew Glass was responsible for 10 points for Kent State. Ohio quarterback Curtis Rope threw for 308 yards. No touchdowns, but he did rush for 2 touchdowns in this game. DeMonte Tuggle also had a rushing touchdown. Kicker Steven Johnson was responsible for 9 points. That was kind of a trend this weekend. A lot of kickers kicked right around 8, 9, 10 points a game that added to the score. Each week we have a trend, something crazy. I think this week was the weekend of the kickers. A lot of kickers scored a lot of points. Kent State 457 total yards. Ohio 457 also. Georgia State 38, Texas State 16. Georgia State quarterback Darren Granger was 16 for 25, 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. Janiest Williams rushed for 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. Dixon and Payne, wide receivers, each had a touchdown catch. Texas State quarterback Brady McBride threw for 255, no touchdowns, but he rushed for a touchdown. Kicker Seth Keller for Texas State, 10 points. There we go in. Panthers had 498 total yards. Bobcats had 378 total yards. Wisconsin 30, Purdue 13. This game was tied at 13 at the half. And as you can tell, Purdue 13, that's all she wrote. That's all they did. Passing game for Wisconsin was pretty much non-existent, only 52 yards. Here we go again. Kicker Kalen Larsh kicked 12 points for Wisconsin. Running back Chase Malusi had 149 yards on 27 carries and a touchdown. Running back Braxton Allen, 140 yards, 12 carries, 2 touchdowns. Purdue quarterback Adrian O'Connell was 24 for 32, 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, and he was sacked 4 times. Tight end Payne Durham had 9 catches for 112 yards and 1 touchdown. And you get this one here. Defensive end George Karlofitz had a 56-yard touchdown fumble recovery. So I bet he was huffing and puffing there. This was a good game, too. I watched this one. Pittsburgh 27, Clemson 17. Kenny Pickett, 25 for 39, 302 yards, 2 touchdowns. Wide receivers Taysir Marks and Jordan Addison each had a touchdown catch in this game. Linebacker Servosa Dennis. That's a cool name. Servosa Dennis had a 50-yard pick 6. Another defensive guy is probably huffing and puffing there. Clemson quarterbacks, both of them played. They actually benched DJ for a while. 151 passing yards combined, no touchdowns, but DJ did rush for a touchdown. Running back Phil Mofe rushed for a touchdown also. There's some talk on, I think it's ESPN radio, I heard Sunday or early Monday morning. Does DJ end up on the West Coast somewhere for some team looking for a quarterback? I guess evidently he's from Los Angeles, so they were just throwing that around if he's going to stay at Clemson or he's going to go back home to the West Coast. Things just don't seem to be working out for him as we all thought they would at the beginning of the season. But it's not just him. There's a lot of quarterbacks we thought were going to be, dynamite this season, and so far it just hasn't happened. So anyway, it's going to be interesting to see if he stays at Clemson or maybe takes off somewhere else. Here's another good one. Iowa State 24, Oklahoma State 21. Iowa State ends Oklahoma State's undefeated streak. Quarterback Brock Purdy for Iowa State, 27-33, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked twice. Wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson, 12 catches for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Breece Hall rushed for a touchdown also. Let's see. Yeah, this, if you saw it, evidently, I didn't see it happen, but I just saw the replay. Evidently, one of the wide receivers for Iowa State caught the ball, running for the touchdown, and to me, it just looked like he was turning around, to see, if anybody was catching up to him. And evidently, the refs called that taunting, and they lost the touchdown over it. I don't know what led up to that, I don't know if anything happened afterwards. If there's gibber, jawing each other before or after that play. But just from what I saw, that didn't look like taunting. That just looked like a guy turning around the scene if anybody was going to catch him. I only saw the instant replay a couple times. Maybe y'all saw it more than me and saw more than I did. I'm not. But just from what I saw, I think they got robbed, and it's just another example of bad officiating going on. So see, SEC, you're not alone. Big 12 screwed up too, just as the Ivy League and Big 10 has from what I've seen. Oklahoma State quarterback Spencer Sanders, 15 for 24, 225 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times in this game. Brennan Presley had 6 catches for 84 yards and 2 touchdowns. And Tay Martin had a touchdown catch also. Both these teams played great, offense and defense. It was just an all-around great football game. So, unfortunately, Oklahoma State's undefeated season comes to an end, but hey, there's still a lot to play for. Especially if they can beat Oklahoma in a few weeks. And the way Oklahoma's playing, they might be able to do it. Minnesota 34, Maryland 16. Minnesota quarterback Tanner Morgan, 125 passing yards, no touchdowns. Running back Kai Thomas had 21 carries, 139 yards, and 1 touchdown. Running back Marquise Irving, 15 carries, 105 yards, and 1 touchdown. Bryce Williams and Cole Kramer also had rushing touchdowns. Minnesota, remember that was the first game against Ohio State with their big time back Muhammad. I forget his last name. He got hurt. But man, the rushing game for Minnesota stepped up. It's like a next guy up mentality has come in to replace, what he's done. Probably not as good as he's done, but maybe close to it. So they do got some running backs there in Minnesota that kind of help carry the load with Muhammad hurt. Maryland quarterback I never say these guys' names. 17 for 27, 189 yards, 1 touchdown. Marcus Fleming had a TD catch, and Travion Fleet Davis rushed for a touchdown also. Buffalo 45, Akron 10. Zip scored all 10 points in the second quarter. And that was it. They were done. Buffalo quarterback Kyle Van Treese, 15 for 20, 241 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown. Dylan McDuffie, 23 carries for 111 yards and 1 touchdown. Jamari Gassett, 4 catches, 95 yards for a touchdown. Akron, the passing game was non-existent pretty much. 75 total passing yards for Akron. John Zell Norleys, 11 carries, 155 yards, and 1 touchdown. Buffalo ended up at 484 total yards, and Akron ended up at 304 total yards. Miami of Ohio, 24, Ball State 17. Miami of Ohio quarterback Brett Gobbert, 20 for 24, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kayon Mazie had a rushing touchdown, and Nate Mersch and Andrew Homer each had touchdown catches for Miami of Ohio. Ball State quarterback Drew Pitt, 22 for 34, 227 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ja'Shawn Jackson had 8 catches for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. Miami of Ohio ended up at 360 total yards, and Ball State 307 total yards. Toledo 34, Western Michigan 15. This was a 2-point game at halftime. Toledo scored 21 points in the third quarter to end all that. Toledo quarterback DeCon Finn, 8 for 24, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 3 times. Micah Kelly rushed for a touchdown. Denzel McKinley-Lewis and Bryce Mitchell each had touchdown catches. Western Michigan quarterback Caleb Elby threw for 232 yards, no touchdowns, but he did run for a touchdown. Sean Taylor had the other rushing touchdown. I really expected Western Michigan to win this game. They're a lot better team than Toledo, but I guess it's, when you get to this point in the season, you guys are tired, some guys are hurt, playing hurt, so Toledo pulled it out. California 26, Colorado 3. California quarterback Chase Gorbers was 22 for 29, 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kalike Latu, 1 receiving touchdown, as did Gavin Ronald. Kicker Dario Longhetto, 14 points he kicked in this game. 14 points. You see that the kicker trend of last Saturday continues. Damn, kicked 14 points. Good for him. Colorado, 69 passing yards and 44 rushing yards. That's probably why they're pretty much at the bottom of the Pac-12 conference. California ended up with 438 total yards, and Colorado ended up with 104 total yards. Colorado and Arizona, man, the guys need to do something about those teams. Oregon 34, UCLA 31. Oregon quarterback Anthony Brown, 296 passing yards, no TDs. He did rush for 85 yards and a touchdown, though. Travis Dye rushed for 35 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. Bruins quarterback Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 220 yards, 1 touchdown. He also rushed for a touchdown also. Britton Brown had rushed for 2 touchdowns also for UCLA. Oregon ended up with 417 total yards, and UCLA ended up with 352 total yards. BYU 21, Washington State 19. BYU quarterback Jaron Hall rushed for 143 yards, no touchdowns. Or passed for 143 yards, no touchdowns. I'm sorry. Tyler Algier had 32 carries, 191 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Lupini Kata, he rushed for a touchdown also. Cougar quarterback Javon Delora passed for 257, no touchdowns. Max Borghi had 18 carries, 83 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Coaching, this I didn't understand this. I didn't see this game, so I was looking through stats and reading it. But evidently, Washington State, they got the interim coach because they fired the other coach. He went for 2-point conversions where you didn't even need to. I mean, there's no need for it. They how they missed 2 failed 2-point conversions. So, I mean, had they kicked that, it would have ended up 21-21, and they would have gone to overtime. I didn't understand why they were doing that. Like I didn't see the game. I just saw the stats. Maybe there was a reason why, but reading the scoring stats and all, I was thinking, why would you go for 2 right there? Why don't you just kick your point? I mean, but I don't know if he was trying to make a statement or what. I don't know. Trying to bring some excitement to the football team. It's beyond me, but anyway, they lost. BYU, 385 total yards, and Washington State, 350 total yards. Ole Miss 31, LSU 17. The woes continue for. I don't understand this LSU team. Okay, first of all, I understand them losing the first game of the year. UCLA turned out to be a good team. A lot of good teams lose their first game of the year, knocking the rust off, first game jitters and all that. But they've just been like this. Losing games they shouldn't. Last week, winning games that you wouldn't think they would win. And Ole Miss, I figured they'd play Ole Miss harder. I kind of actually gave the edge to Ole Miss. But I figured LSU would score more than 17 points, especially seeing what they did against Florida the week before. But it is what it is. LSU scored in the first and the fourth quarters, and that was it. They scored that one touchdown. Was 7-0 in the first, and then that was it for a while. Matt Corral, 18 for 23, 185 yards, 1 touchdown, and he rushed for a touchdown also. Him and Kenny Pickett, they had off Heisman days this last week. I figured they'd both have bigger numbers, but they didn't. Jerron Ely and Henny Parrish each rushed for a touchdown for Ole Miss, and Casey Kelly caught a touchdown pass. LSU quarterback Max Johnson, he threw for 146, no touchdowns. He threw a pick, and he was sacked 4 times. Dorian Davis-Price rushed for a touchdown, and Malik Nobers caught a touchdown pass for LSU. Ole Miss ended up with 470 total yards, and LSU 326 total yards. New Mexico 14, Wyoming 3. Lobo quarterback Isaiah Chavez, 16 for 11, 112 yards and a touchdown. Aaron Dumbs rushed for 35 yards and a touchdown. Trace Blecker caught a touchdown pass. Cowboys started off decent this year, and then they kind of just, fell on their face. I don't know what's going on. They're 4-3 now. Looked like they were going to have a good year, but these last few weeks, they really haven't gotten it together. New Mexico 259 total yards, Wyoming 255 yards. Hometown heroes here. Rice get another win, and they beat UAB. I was not expecting that. UAB's a good team. Rice isn't, but they pulled it out somehow. So congratulations, Owls. I live outside of Houston. I attend a lot of Rice games. They're fun. I mean, even when they're not winning, there's just a fun atmosphere. Quarterback Wiley Green for Rice, 17 for 22, 205 yards, 3 touchdowns, sacked 4 times. Jordan Myers rushed for a touchdown. August Pitts had 6 catches for 108 yards and 1 touchdown. And Jager Bull had 2 touchdown catches for Rice. UAB quarterback Dylan Hopkins passed for 318 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and he was sacked 3 times. Dwayne McBride rushed for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. Garrett Prince had 4 catches for 114 yards, and he had a touchdown catch. Good for Rice. They're starting to get back on track now. I don't know if they'll make it to a bowl game this year, but keep this stuff up. They can be a good team next year. Mississippi State 45, Vanderbilt 6. Mississippi State quarterback Will Rogers was 41 for 57, 384 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Vandy sacked 3 times. Moke Polk caught 2 touchdown passes. Thomas Heath and Harvey, all 3 caught touchdown passes for Mississippi State. Vanderbilt quarterback Mike Wright was 17 for 17, 122 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked 3 times by the Bulldogs. Kicker Joseph Bolavos, he kicked the 6 points, so he was the only one that scored points for Vandy. Mississippi State, 522 total yards. Vandy, 155 total yards. Man, it's almost like a middle school. Houston, 31. East Carolina, 24. This game, we had some bad storms come through the greater Houston area on Saturday. This game was supposed to kick off at 3. I don't think they got it kicked off until 5. I mean, 8. It's like a 5-hour just sitting around and, twiddling your thumbs. You're all psyched for the game, and that happens. And, man. But they finally got started and got it going. Houston quarterback Clayton Tune, 10 for 29, 169 yards, 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 5 times. Alton McCaskill rushed for 60 yards and a touchdown. Marcus Jones had a 98-yard kickoff return for a touchdown. He was hauling the mail. Quarterback Holton Allers for East Carolina, 23 for 37, 283 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown. Wide receivers Hatfield and Omotosho each had a touchdown catch for East Carolina. Louisville 28, Boston College 14. BC scored in the first and fourth quarters in this game, and that was it. In between, they didn't do anything. Louisville Malik Cunningham passed for 107 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions, but he did rush for 133 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jalen Mitchell rushed for 67 yards and a touchdown. Boston College quarterback Dennis Grosso was 17 for 32, 141 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. He was sacked 3 times in this game. Alex Sinkfield rushed for 53 yards and a touchdown, and Jalen Grill caught the touchdown pass for Boston College. Louisville, 438 total yards. Boston College, 266 total yards. Liberty, 35. North Texas, 26. Liberty quarterback Malik Willis, 12 for 18, 222 yards and 3 touchdowns. C.J. Daniels, 7 catches for 135 yards and 2 touchdowns. Demario Douglas returned a punt, 72 yards for a touchdown. North Texas quarterback Austin Oin, is that how you say it? 22 for 35, 212 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 interception. Ayo Day, that's how you say it, and DeAndre Torrey each rushed for touchdowns for North Texas, and Jason Pennell caught the touchdown pass. Liberty, 351 total yards. North Texas, 454 total yards. UTSA keeps their unbeaten streak going. 45-16 over Louisiana Tech. Bulldogs only scored in the first and fourth quarters, and that was it. UTSA quarterback Frank Harris, 12 for 20, 193 yards, 2 touchdowns. Sincere McCormick, I like that name, Sincere, rushed for 112 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Zachory Franklin, 5 catches, 118 yards, and 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Taylor had a 50-yard pick 6 for UTSA. On-Tech quarterback Austin Kendall, 23 for 34, 279 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 6 times in this game by UTSA. Smoke Harris had 7 catches for 108 yards and a touchdown. And Samuel Emils had a touchdown catch for La Tech. UTSA is a pretty damn good team. I mean, I know they're in a conference that isn't very strong, but the way they beat these teams and the points and the yards they put up each week is pretty incredible. And heck, they did go up there to Illinois and beat Illinois before we knew Illinois wasn't any good. But pretty good team there. Them and SMU. Those are like 2 of the best Texas teams we have of all the colleges here. Crazy. Alabama 52, Tennessee 34. This was a really good game. I really enjoyed this one. Vols played good. It was a 7-point game in the third quarter. Tennessee played hard. They played strong. They're right there at Alabama. I know Alabama's probably down a little bit from their usual, where they usually are, but still, it was a great game. I actually thought Tennessee was going to pull this one off there towards the end. And then Alabama, remember they were Alabama and scored points and won. Bryce Young was 31 for 43, 371 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he rushed for 2 touchdowns. Brian Robinson, 26 carries for 107 yards and 3 touchdowns. John Metcalf, 11 catches for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tennessee, Hendon Hooker played. They didn't know if he was going to be playing this week or not after he got injured against Ole Miss the week before. But he played 19 for 28, 282 yards, 3 touchdowns. He threw an interception. He was sacked 3 times in this game by the Bama defense. Tillman, Preston, Jones Jr., all those receivers each had touchdown catches in this game. You watch Tennessee play. If you didn't look at the records of teams when they played and you watched Tennessee play, you would swear they only have 1, maybe 2 losses. They're 4-4. Each week they play really good. They play really good this week against Ole Miss, against Pittsburgh. I'm really interested to see Josh Heupel, what he's going to do here at Tennessee these next few years. If you're a Volunteer fan, you should be really excited because I think this guy's really going to turn this program around. They've just been playing great football this year. The record doesn't show it, but they have. This one I was wrong about. San Diego State 20, Air Force 14. I figured Air Force would win this game, not by much because San Diego State's a great team. But I didn't think they were going to lose it, but they did by 6 points. San Diego State only had 72 passing yards in this game. Chance Bell rushed for a touchdown, as did Craigon Williams. And kicker Matt Arizai had 8 points in this game. Air Force quarterback Warren Bryan, 3 for 7, 58 yards and a touchdown. Dane Kinnaman rushed for a touchdown, and Dalton King caught a touchdown pass. Air Force played at home too in Colorado Springs, and they didn't score any points until the third quarter. So that's the way it is. Fresno State 34, Nevada 32. Fresno State quarterback Jake Horner, 26 for 38, 256 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jordan Mims rushed for 134 yards on 23 carries, 1 touchdown. He also caught a touchdown pass. Kenneth Weefall, 5 catches for 84 yards and a touchdown. And kicker Cesar Silva had 10 points. There we go with the trend. Another kicker. Making a lot of good points for kickers this past Saturday. Nevada quarterback Carson Strong, 49 for 61, 476 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was sacked 5 times. Romeo Doubs, 19 catches, 203 yards and 1 touchdown. Cole Turner, 8 catches for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. Justin Lockhart, 6 catches for 83 yards and 1 touchdown. Law Monroe, 41. South Alabama, 31. Chandler Rogers for Law Monroe was 25 for 35. 369 yards, 4 touchdowns. Andrew Henry rushed for 88 yards, 18 carries, and 1 touchdown. And Will Derrick had 5 catches for 135 yards and 1 touchdown. And here we go again. Kicker Colin Sutherland, 11 points for Louisiana Monroe. South Alabama, Jake Bentley went 30 for 41, 320 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he was sacked 4 times. Jolyn Tolbert had 10 catches for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jalen Wayne and Lincoln Seafick each also had touchdown catches for South Alabama. Louisiana Monroe, 555 total yards, and South Alabama, 409 total yards. South Florida, 34, Temple 14. Timmy McLean was 10 for 13, 71 yards, and 1 touchdown for South Florida. Jordan Morganham rushed for 152 yards, 26 carries, and 2 touchdowns. Kelly Joyner rushed for 126 yards, 14 carries, and 1 touchdown. Temple, DeJuan Mathis, 12 for 21, 183 yards, 1 touchdown. He threw 2 picks. Edward Soide rushed for a touchdown, and Randall Jones had 4 catches for 100 yards and 1 touchdown. South Florida was 526 on the total yards, and Temple was 231 total yards. Western Kentucky, 34. Florida International, 19. Western Kentucky's Bailey Zape, 39 for 49, 368 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Adam Colefield, 15 rushes for 74 yards and a touchdown. And Jarrett Stims, 14 catches, 115 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Florida International's Max Bartenschlager, 15 for 32, 192 yards, 1 touchdown, sacked 6 times. Devontae Price rushed for 87 yards and a touchdown, and Randall Felix had 5 catches, 104 yards, and 1 touchdown. Hilltoppers end up at 530 total yards, and Panthers 290 total yards. Virginia 48, Georgia Tech 40. Virginia quarterback Brendan Armstrong, 29 for 48, 396 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also rushed for 99 yards and 2 touchdowns. Kicker Brandon Farrell for Virginia, 12 points. I'm telling you, it was a Saturday. It was the day of the kicker. Dante Yvonne, I think you say his name. Dante Yvonne Wicks, 6 catches, 168 yards, 2 touchdowns. Georgia Tech's Jeff Sims, 27 for 44, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. Jamar Gibbs, 13 carries on 132 yards and 1 touchdown. And Kyrick McGowan, 7 catches, 86 yards, and 2 touchdown catches there. Virginia ended up with 636 total yards. Georgia Tech, 570 total yards. And Virginia's Brendan Armstrong, that's another one I wouldn't be surprised if he was in New York at the end of the year. Really good quarterback. Him and Kenny Pitt, and then was it Hartman at Wake Forest. Matt Corral. Man, this might be the year of the quarterback there up at the Heisman race. We'll see what happens. We still got a few more games to go. Miami 31, NC State 30. This entire game was back and forth. I really expected North Carolina State to beat Miami, not just an all-out, 70-0 Nebraska of the 90s type score, but I really expect them to, win by 2, maybe 3 touchdowns because Miami's just not that good. NC State's is a good team. They've had a couple hiccups this year, but I really didn't expect it to end like this. Miami, Tyler Von Duke, 25 for 30, 325 yards, 4 touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times in this game. Charleston Rambo, 9 catches, 127 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Knighton, and Will Mallory each had a touchdown catch for Miami. NC State, Devin Larry, 24 for 42, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also rushed for a touchdown. Thayer Thomas had 7 catches for 71 yards and 2 touchdowns. And here we go. Kicker Christopher Dunn kicked 12 points for NC State. I expect the Wolfpack to lose this game, but they did. I mean, that's what's so great about college football. You think you know something and you don't. The other team comes out and proves you wrong. Ohio State 54, Indiana 7. Indiana scored their in the first quarter, their 7 points, and that was it. They were done. That's all they needed to do. C.J. Stroud was 21 for 28, 266 yards and 4 touchdowns. Trayvon Henderson rushed for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jeremy Rucker, 5 catches for 47 yards and 2 touchdowns. Indiana, Jack Tuttle threw for 41 yards and a touchdown. Peyton Hendershot caught the touchdown pass for Indiana. Hoosiers only had 52 rushing yards and 75 passing yards. Ohio State, 539 yards. Indiana, 128 total yards. Indiana was one of those teams that I was looking forward to see how they were going to do this year because they've been getting better every year. Them and Iowa State, I thought maybe both those teams could throw a monkey wrench into their conferences, into the conference races, but Indiana, it hasn't happened. I don't think it's going to. Iowa State could still throw a wrench in there, but like I always say, it is what it is. Oregon State 42, Utah 34. Beavers' Chance Nolan was 14 of 19, 208 yards and 2 touchdowns. B.J. Baylor rushed for 152 yards on 19 carries and 1 touchdown. Luke Musgrave, he returned a block punt, 27 yards for a touchdown for Oregon State. Utah's Cameron Rising, 22 for 36, 267 yards and 2 touchdowns. Travion Thomas ran for 74 yards on 21 carries and 2 touchdowns. Michael Bernard and Brian Kutha each had a touchdown catch. And kicker Jordan Hayes, 10 points. I'm telling you, Saturday was the day of the kicker. Texas A&M 44, South Carolina 14. A&M Zach Calzada, 12 for 24, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. He threw an interception. Jalen Weidemeyer, 4 catches for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. Aniyah Smith had a 95-yard punt return for a touchdown. South Carolina's Jason Brown, 8 for 14, 84 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Marshawn Lloyd rushed for 25 yards and a touchdown. And Travian Keenan caught the touchdown pass. Aggies ended up with 477 total yards and Gamecocks 185 total yards. West Virginia 29, TCU 17. I kind of got bored with the A&M game because they were winning so bad. So now I finished out the Alabama-Tennessee game. And after that, I turned it over to this one. West Virginia 29, TCU 17. This was an 8-point game at halftime. Then TCU just quit scoring. And so we got our 17. That's all we need. West Virginia, Jared Dodge passed for 257 yards, no touchdowns. Letty Brown rushed for 111 yards, 24 carries, and 3 touchdowns. Kicker Casey Legg, 11 points. I'm telling you, it was a trend. TCU Max Dugan, 16 for 26, 244 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Tane Barber had a touchdown catch, and Darius Dave had a 100-yard kickoff return for a touchdown for TCU. Notre Dame 31, USC 16. USC, they only scored their points in the second and fourth quarter. Notre Dame, Jack Cohn, 20 for 28, 189 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Kyron Williams, 25 rushes for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tyler Buchner rushed for a touchdown, and A.V. Davis caught a touchdown pass. USC's Kedon Slovis threw for 299, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, sacked 3 times. Keontae Ingram rushed for 138 yards and a touchdown. And Darwin Barlow rushed for a touchdown for USC. Notre Dame, 383 total yards. USC, 424 total yards. And now, speaking of USC, there's another name in the mix. People are saying Jeff Fisher. Remember, he used to coach Tennessee Oilers and then the Titans. And then, did he coach the Rams? Did he coach somewhere else? Well, now they're throwing his name into the mix. And it's funny how it happened the weekend after Penn State loses to Illinois in that 9 overtime game. Because remember, James Franklin, his name was on the list for USC and maybe even LSU. Now, all of a sudden, since that loss, Jeff Fisher, all of a sudden, he's brand new on the list. So, could be a coincidence, maybe not. Who knows? Hawaii, 48. New Mexico State, 34. Hawaii, Dedrick Pearson rushed for 161 yards on 25 carries and 3 touchdowns. Corey Bethley had a 79-yard pick six. Darvis Mosso had a 75-yard pick six. So those defensive backs are really all over it. New Mexico State, Juwan Prince rushed for 159 yards on 17 carries and had 2 touchdowns. Jonah Johnson threw for 228, rushed for 2 touchdowns. And last but not least, the last game of the night, there we go again. Kicker Ethan Albertson, 10 points. 10 points. I'm telling you, it was the day of the kicker. All right, that's it. We will be back on Thursday for our weekend, week 9 preview. Gonna have a lot of great games. There's nothing this week, I don't think, on tomorrow night or Wednesday night like we've had the last couple of weeks. So anyway, yeah, y'all next few days, and we will see you Thursday. Have a good day.